The living room, where the family meets to discuss issues, any issue which may be bothering one of the family members. That's what we do each and every Tuesday on WAC 90.1 FM with Ricardo Mitchell and DJ Aaron 868. We have casual conversations on serious topics, from sports to culture, mental health to economics, relationships to life lessons. Join us each and every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. on WAC 90.1 FM. The Living Room, casual conversations on serious topics.
It is now 6 p.m. here in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know what time it is where you are, but I'm glad to know you're locked onto the true nation station, WACK 90.1 FM, where we are
culture crazy.
First and foremost, let's kick this off as we always do. Must give thanks and praises to the Almighty for granting us the gift of life and seeing another day. No matter what time of day it is, you must always
give thanks.
Secondly, we must say thank you to those that went before us, and we are not just talking about our ancestors, the original inhabitants of Trinidad and Tobago, the Taínos and the Calinagos, because we all know, accept, reiterate, and they sing it with the chest that Columbus slide. But also to our brother in music, Tony Prescott, where the P this week stands for
paternity. Paternity era. What I gotta tell you, you know the direction that we're going in. Sunday coming is Father's Day. It is Father's Day coming, Sunday coming, right? Yeah. So the P this week is paternity, man. It could be precipitation, and some perilous precipitation as well too.
As they say, precipitation. The ODPM always advises us on the post to not drive through floodwaters. Why be driving through floodwaters?
Right.
They also advise us not to litter. Why be littering? Then they say don't throw your fridge and your stove in the rivers. But yet still we do that and we blame the government because this place flooded. If we do not take a level of responsibility for our actions, crap will smoke we pipe.
Yeah, and you know what? Remember too, the authorities is also make sure that we're not building on riverbanks and in flood. No, wait. Anyway, two out of three ain't bad.
Guys, it has been a wet week thus far. So I hope everybody that's listening to us is safe. It's dry. And for those of you Kansas persons who have been affected by the floods in the southern regions of Trinidad and Tobago, kindly do so, right? And remember, ask what people need first before you just go and buy 10 cases of water.
Or 2 dozen tin of baked beans and corned beef. It's not just tin food.
Yeah, you rely on that baked beans, but I like baked beans.
No, not particularly, to be honest with you. But what I'm saying is not just tin food, right? Sanitaries is a big deal too. Just throwing it out there.
Right. We have a very interesting show planned inside today's edition of The Living Room.
Living Room with who?
Oh, shucks, with yours truly, DJ Aaron 868. I remind you that culture is my code alongside my bro with no fro.
Ricardo Mitchell, the social stage on the global stage.
Right. We have a real interesting program. We actually, today, we're going to go farther with fathers.
Well played.
Thank you.
That sounds like the title there.
Yeah. Right. Really quickly before we get into it, West Indies, they beat UAE 3-0 and they are now engaged in the qualifying tournament for the World Cup that started today. So remember, the men in maroon, we've got to support them. Trinidad also beat Guatemala on Sunday night, 1-0 in a friendly. So sports looking a little good. Also on Monday, we celebrated the birthday of my friendly adversary, Mr. Kenny Phillips.
Hey, don't make joke. Yeah. Happy birthday and God bless her.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, blessed belated Earth Strong to Terras Commander.
Yes, his birthday was on Saturday.
Yes, man. Yeah. Kings.
Yeah. Anything else before we bring in Vorish?
I feel you could bring them in one time, we have plenty to get through.
All right, cool.
But by the way, I just one bit of rab. If I had to title last week in Trinidad and Tobago, I would call it Blue Jaguar Roti with slight pepper. Blue Jaguar Roti. And you know all three topics I'm talking about.
Let me get this real quick.
Wait, where are they? Where are they?
The Jaguar.
Worries.
Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room.
And we are back after that lovely musical introduction by Vorish, as they do each and every time we have guests inside the living room. And as advertised, we are joined by three handsome young men.
Fancy
Right?
young.
All right, cool. We'll roll with that. We are joined by Kiegs, an event host, an energy professional, and a long-time press man.
Yeah.
Franz Gillezeau, a fitness enthusiast, gym manager, and it's Tai Chi or Taekwondo expert.
Taekwondo third degree. I wouldn't call myself an expert.
Well, to me, I expert, you know, a lot more than I do. And Shaun Crawford, a fellow gentleman in the entertainment industry. The three gentlemen that we have brought here today are all fathers, right? Franz has one son, Kiegs has two daughters, Shaun has two daughters, Cardo is a father of many, and I am the father of a lovely pet fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, some jobs are bigger than others, but we all have the job, man.
Yeah, so I had to start somewhere. I have a pet fish now.
Mm.
Next. So gentlemen, sorry, we ask you the most important question that we ask any of our guests when they enter the living room. Not where's the scene jelly bean, not where's the gist physicist, not what's the word hummingbird. We ask you, how are you?
Who went first?
Yeah, I could start. Right now,
For sure.
a little bit under the weather. I'm not quite sure why. So I have the most massive headache that I've had in quite a long while. I try not to show it. Yeah, a little fatigue as well, but I'm functioning. So I say, well, you know, as much as I'm functioning, I might as well function and be here with the fellas. And I'm actually feeling better as we now start to talk. You know, I'm feeling like if I probably just needed some social interaction, man.
That's nice. Sorry to hear about the headache.
Yeah, wish you a speedy recovery, brother.
Appreciate that. Me too.
Franz, how you doing there? How are you?
I'm not going to say, what's that, Cardo? That's not the question.
I was gonna say the same thing. I thought this. I'm good, man. My brother got married over the weekend. That was a proper session. Very proud of him. One more to go, and then all four of us will be hitched. So that was nice. A nice occasion. Coming out of that, you know, relaxed a little bit yesterday. Back to work today. So I'm good, generally speaking.
Franz, I ran into your father on Saturday morning
Saturday, which one?
in the quick shop in Monterey.
All right. And what happened? Do you know, as curator of music and such, you know, you have a track on radio? Just
Serious?
to segue a little bit. I'm telling you, well, I don't know. I think it probably played on radio once or twice. The name of the track, boy, bang it. I had to get off there.
Yeah, send it from me.
Yes,
A little Kaiser tune.
We'll play it off air first before we went.
Yeah, no, it's safe. Like it, you know, it edited,
okay, cool.
but yeah, I'll get there.
Oh, the name real trim off, honestly.
Well, he's a carpenter now, like a handyman. So you had to fix something in somebody's house. So you know, you had to use his hammer.
I want to end the program with that song.
I will link with it.
Right, son.
Shaun, how are you?
Hey fellas, well, thanks again for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys. I cool, as I always say, trying to keep it in the tight compartment, working on those manifestations and that kind of thing. So I cool. I mean, I saw a post earlier on Facebook, and you're on the right path, brother. I like what I'm seeing on your end. That's area and Ricardo, I look forward to your post daily on the socials also, man. So I really appreciate. I look at all you're doing things, and I've seen it. I've seen the movement.
Yeah. Thanks, bro. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
It took me long enough to jump on the people TikTok, and now I'm kind of feeling it.
It's not bad, though. I told those girls that they need to take me through the paces. I'm still off the beat a bit because you can do a lot on it.
Yeah.
But hopefully it'll make some time for me soon.
But I am just a flicker next to the flame that is Aaron's future on air. This man was on the big TTT dog. This man was putting pan and thing.
Yeah, we gotta talk to him real. You gotta talk to him real nice.
Gas up.
Mr.
DJ.
Mr. DJ Aaron, I think.
Free gas on a Tuesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hope that could go in my gas tank now. It's really an honor to sit here with these four gentlemen in what we would call a Father's Day special, right? And not father, but a Father's Day special, right? Now, there's a little controversial question that I want to start off with tonight, gentlemen. And I want your opinion. And this is not a right or wrong. This is your opinion I'm asking for. What's the difference between being a parent and being a father?
You went deep with that one, boy.
Yeah, I coming out swinging one time.
Yeah, one time.
And since I'm coming out swinging, I will choose Franz, because Franz will swing some cuffs and pelt some kicks when he's taekwondoing.
That's not wrong. What is the difference between a parent and a father? Well, one is more general, in my opinion, and one is very specific. So, I mean, a father is obviously a parent. But as a parent, you're there as a role model and disciplinarian and showing your kids the way, teaching them life skills, etc. As a father, you play a very specific role in your kids' lives in terms of modeling behavior. As a father of a son, I will be who he looks to first as to how men supposed to behave inside, outside, around strangers, around family, around women when they grow up a little older. My father-in-law is the father of only girls, so he and these two lads here are the measuring stick by whom their daughters show up men, and their father's behavior towards their wife, their baby's mothers, will be how they learn to be treated by other men. So fathers and mothers have their roles to play, but it's more than so. Parent is just a general role, whereas fathers and mothers are very specific modeling for their kids, and it differs between sons and daughters as to what they're going to internalize as that role.
Flame emojis.
So now that we had somebody to kick it off, let's bring in somebody that's gonna sing some I'm trying to highlight everybody's talents here.
But this is my active listening phase.
Don't worry, Ricardo. At least we know the jokes can't get worse. All right.
This man, you will rise to that challenge, right?
Yeah,
I can.
tempted now.
I can. Trust me, I can. Right? So we're gonna bring somebody that's gonna sing some, because one of the key things as a parent in the initial stages is singing some lullabies. And I know Kiegs would have had the sweet voice to sing lullabies to his kids, his daughters.
For me, to try and develop, because Franz covered a whole lot there, I think the main thing for a parent as opposed to a father is doing your best, right? We all have different backgrounds, different lifestyles, right? So we all love differently and all of that. But I feel like in most cases, there might be exceptions to the rule, but in most cases, doing your best is really what makes the difference, right? And in my case, being a stepfather as well, that is what it has come down to in a lot of cases, with a lot of situations, that may not have been conventional, but being there, stepping up, making the sacrifice, right? As opposed to just having made your contribution to conception, right? And I think if you're doing your best, at some point in time, you'll start to look for help. Even if you're not asking out loud, you will at least start to observe other people that you think, you know what, this man doing the right thing here. Let me see what he's doing, right? So even in me, right, I would have looked at, and even Cado, not necessarily being a father, but he would have had things he would have said in those same social media posts and whatnot that would have helped me in my experience, parenting, and reminding myself, yeah, this is still a child. This is not an adult. This is still a child, and I need to always remember that. Whether my day is hard, whether my day is easy, right? I need to remember, who they are and who I am supposed to be to them. So I just saying, doing your best at all times.
Yeah.
I'm loving these answers to this question. Now, I'm 100% sure that Shaun, as a vibes man, is going to bring his own vibe. I tell you, it could get worse, honestly. It could get worse. Right? Shaun, as a vibes man, is going to bring his own vibes to this controversial question.
Yeah. These guys putting a different spin on this. They're really putting a spin on this thing here. When I in thinking about it, to me, one speaks about role and one speaks about relationship. Being a parent speaks about your role as a parent, the things that you're supposed to do as a parent for a child, right? So as a parent here, you're supposed to provide an education, housing, clothing for your children. Whereas as a father, it speaks to your relationship with your son or your daughter. It speaks about you knowing that individual that you brought into the world intimately. The likes, the dislikes. You have an intimate relationship with your child. And so to me, that is the difference. One speaks about the role you have for that person, and the other one speaks to the relationship you have with the person, with the child. Sorry.
God, I'll tell you, we couldn't pick better guests for this talk tonight.
I sitting here and just the different perspectives and all correct, all right, all fit. I don't think any one person would be able to cover all those angles the way that the community has done. So flame emojis all around for that as well done.
Now, I go and throw it out to you, Carlo, because we established that you are a father of many. And you also said off air that you are a parent of parents. So for you, what is the difference for you?
Leaning very heavily into what Shaun said. If I had to answer, my initial response would have been, one is role and one is responsibility. One is the performance of duties, the actions required to fulfill a function. The other one is about the connection you have with your offspring. Right? It's not yes, we know that the intricately connected and aligned, no doubt. But I know a lot of parents who fulfill in function and they don't know the children. And the children don't know them. I also know a lot of parents who are friends with the kids and kind of dropping the ball on some of the function elements. Right? I also recognize that Franz, I nail it with the modeling element of it. The reason I could comfortably come out and say that while I have no kids, I parent parents is because this is not necessarily about the relationship I have with these people. It is about the role that I have in terms of helping them align, helping them adjust the behavior such that they could function as well. Fortunately, there are a lot of people that I have deep, meaningful connections with. But at the end of the day, the people that I engage, I may not know them at all. And I still perform a particular function. So I could safely say parents. If I correct you, I am a part of the village that it takes to raise a child. Right? Yeah. But have I fathered? Not necessarily. There are people that have had that relationship and model for. Lately I've been navigating being able to correct without disciplining. And the way to correct without disciplining is by example. Your performance is going to allow somebody to adjust the behavior without you having to tell them that they were doing it wrong or that they could do it better. Right? I don't have to chastise you to get you to see that there's another way to do something. So in that element, the modeling / teaching element is something that gets more personal, because now I'm not just giving you, I'm not waxing poetic and dropping wisdom for you. I am behaving in a way that you look at and decide what you want to take from it. Yeah. Right? And in terms of the way Kiegs drop it too, I have to lean in on that, right? This thing is multi-layered, right? And if we don't recognize very clearly that there's a difference between being a parent and being a father, well, then we can't recognize that there's a difference between being a parent and being a mother. And then you'll start to see some of the shenanigans of Happy Mother's Day, and it does stop. Okay. And it does go Happy Father's Day and to all the single mothers. I have yet to see a Happy Mother's Day and to all the single fathers doing the job out there. Not saying that it do exist. And you know what? There's a real good point to stop, because I want to tag you in something that Franz sent for us off air, right? With Aaron's favorite segment. WTF? What the Franz?
Some time ago on this same segment, I talked about speaking power to men instead of pity. And here's an example of what I mean. Today alone, and it's not even 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm recording this, I saw, read and heard on 3 different platforms men talking about the fact that it's Men's Health Month, June, but nobody's talking about men's health because it's about men. And then they go on to talk about men's health. Ease up now. Oh God, you could talk about the issue without talking about the fact that nobody's talking about the issue. What's the self-pity party about? If you think that nobody's talking about it, which is objectively untrue, because if you follow the right people, people are talking about it, then just talk about it. But you prefer to talk about the fact that nobody's talking about it. Oh, boo-hoo. No, man. Speak power, not pity. What the Franz?
Thank you very much for that contribution, Franz. And thank you very much, Cardo, for finally taking the example that I always say, WTF. What the Franz? I really do agree with you, Franz, where you speak of the fact that we have to stop. Well, nobody talking about it and then proceed. Now, let's just have the conversation. You can't realize that there's a problem and then start to bring a solution to the problem by talking about the problem only. Now, let's just get straight to the solution, because if people continue to hear you leading with the problem, they'll say, oh gosh, but we can't hear about that problem again. Let me just get to the solution. Now, Franz, there was something you said answering the first question, where you spoke about being a role model to the children and also the disciplinarian aspect of it. Generally, they say that fathers are the fun ones. Because
fathers are the
fun ones.
Oh, okay.
This weekend I went and I visited a friend of mine, and she and her husband were there, and the daughter would run up on the father's back, and he would flip her around and whatever, and then he would run by mommy. She'd run by mommy for food. How do you balance being the supposed fun father with also keeping a level of discipline with the kids, your children?
My son also runs by my wife for wild play and other things other than food. Although he does run by her for food more than he's run by me. So we are both the fun one, just very different types of fun. But I have always been more of the disciplinarian in the house anyway. And so it sort of come down to tone. Like my son knows when we're playing around, and sometimes he might push it a little far and I have to snap it back and say, no, bring it down. What you did there wasn't right. And he knows as soon as my tone changes, the fun has stopped for now. And then you deal with it and then you go back to fun. You can't just keep it sour, because then the whole house will become sour. So, I mean, everything has its place. For me, it's important to remember, as I believe it was Shaun said, that they're kids and that almost everything is a game to them. And they're not going to understand until you tell them when they've crossed the line or what was inappropriate or what just outright wasn't funny. And they won't know that until you tell them. So you can play along until something crosses a line and then you have to stop. But these days I managed to do it with just tone alone or a look. And then he'll know he crossed the line, bring it back. He'll have to apologize, whatever it is, and then you ramp it back up to fun. So I don't know if that answered your question at all. But
that was an excellent answer. And honestly, Franz, if even as grown as I am, you watch me a type of way, I go in and be like, all right, cool. Shaun, what about you?
Similar to Franz, I think with me, I think when we spoke last time, I mentioned, I think I laid a foundation in the early stages of the girls where I was very harsh. I took that disciplinarian role very early in their childhood, and that kind of laid the foundation in terms of building that rapport with them, that they know, okay, cool, there's certain things that mommy and daddy stand for and certain things we don't stand for. And so there's a clear understanding of what those lines and boundaries are. And so now it's all about, building on that and building a relationship with them. And so similar to Franz, you might be maybe in a certain setting, and of course children may get relaxed within that setting. And things may go beyond the boundary, and from the change of a tone, you realize, okay, cool, probably we went too far here. Mm-hmm. Because my girls are at that teenage stage where they really have an understanding of life and the principles and morals that we try to instill in them. So similar to Franz is that as their children, they will test the boundaries, they'll try things, but definitely from that change of tone and understanding, depending on what the situation is, understanding how serious it is, they'll know. That's how I balance it. When it's a serious situation, we deal with it in a serious manner. Yeah. Something like that, we deal with it. So it's all about relationship and understanding.
All right. So I could jump in one time.
Sure.
I had the benefits. I'm not sure if it's a benefit or the headache. Not the one that I have right now in question, but I have a bit of the both right now because I dealing with two sides of the spectrum. All right, I have Elise at 4, just turned 5, and Samara 16 going on 17. So I have to deal with them differently, and there's a lot on the 5-year-old side where Franz would have explained just tone. All right, and the same thing would have been done with Samara at her younger years. All right, you kind of establish how I sound when I'm playing and how I sound when I'm not playing anymore. Right, and I must mention that my wife would have had a big part to play here as well, because she would also change her mood when she hears me use a certain tone. So now, at that little age, they are able to see someone else realizing, okay, you had to take it down on the play, right? See what we may have done wrong, or let me figure out what it is we need to talk about here first. And then in the same way, our mood goes back up, or she goes back being casual. She's able to be, friendly and familiar with me, showing that, well, just because I had to be stern, I am not a beast, right? After all. So the tone is definitely a big one. So even at 5, yeah, tone, that look, all the time. You just had to keep on, especially if your intention is not to have to hit your children at all. You have to keep them mindful of, yeah, you need to shape up there, right? And on the next side, yeah, the relationship is very important. So what I try to do is explain clearly all the time. Life is so comfortable for you right now because you're batting in your crease. You're doing ABC, you're doing XYZ, and that's your job. I have my job. I had to go out there every day. I had to do this. I had to host events. I had to do this. Your mother, she out there every day, right? Franz, she in row all now, doing Zumba, right? But everybody has their job in the household, and you have yours as well, right? So I need this from you. And if you don't do these things, then you can't have all this comfort that you are looking for. The same way I won't have my salary. You can't have all this comfort, but I spend a lot of time spoiling Samara as much as I can, right? But also letting her know you need to be grateful for all of these things. So for every misstep she makes, is me letting you know, well, yo, we spoke clearly about this. So this is not me responding in anger. This is not me lashing out at you. Basically, we have a contract, and you kind of not abiding by the contract right now. So it have consequences, and that is what will happen in life. Very soon, as you leave this household, you're going to have to do what you say you're supposed to do, right? You're going to have to go there and be responsible, and everything that you expect to come to you is going to have to be dependent on how it is you go about conducting yourself in whatever order was agreed to before.
Aaron, based on your anticipation of becoming a father, what do you think your parenting style would be in terms of balancing the fun and discipline?
That's actually a real loaded question. The best way to answer that for me is there is a huge age difference between my brother and I, right? I think it's 11 years to be exact. So to an extent, I'm not saying that I was a father figure to him, but I would have had a role to play within his formative years because my dad used to work out of the country, right? And from that, it translated now into me, I want to say babysitting my godchildren. And the most recent example I would use is I would, something similar to what Kiegs is saying, in terms of teaching consequence from our young age. So you want to watch your tablet, no problem. But to watch your tablet, you also have to be quiet. You have to sit quietly and you have to listen. But if now you're watching the tablet, but every 2 minutes you're pelting it down and you're running outside because you want this, you want that, you don't want to sit down by yourself, then the privilege of getting to watch your tablet has to be removed because you're not showing the level of care, one, for the instrument, which is the tablet. You're not showing the appreciation. Because for me, I do believe in giving a child under the age of 5 too much screen time. For me, go outside and play once you can. And lastly, the essence of talking to them a lot, which for me is kind of the opposite of what I was exposed to. Growing up, I would have had the disciplinarian of as a dad, where you do something wrong, you collect 2 clout. Not saying that the clout didn't help, but I also don't want that to be my way of disciplining my children. So it has to, that's why I want to take the avenue of talking more, explaining to them what they did wrong, and also teaching them the consequence of actions.
I have generally been known as being stricter than gentle. I am very principled when it comes to cause and consequence, when it comes to decision making, that type of thing. And over the years, I've learned that instruction does not work if the recipient not in a position to receive it. It doesn't matter how right you are about what it is you're trying to do. If you don't deal with what their emotional obstacle is, it does not matter what it is you're trying to teach them. And this is even out again with adults too. if you don't address what the issue they're having is, well, then you pretty much pouring into a bucket with a hole. So over the years, I've learned to temper my delivery. I've discovered lately that my parenting style is gentle parenting. However, it's not no instinct, right? I'm not going to hit anybody. As far as I'm concerned, I remember every time I get licks in my life, and I turn out fairly reasonable. I'm not against a degree of corporal punishment, but what I'm also saying is that there are other ways to navigate. If you have better tools, you build better craft, right? So I tend to gentle parent in the sense that I want to have a conversation with you about this social transaction that we have going on. I really like how Kiegs put it, because you can't be getting all these privileges, you can't have access to all these resources, you can't be getting all these positive consequences, and you totally ignoring the responsibilities that come with them, right? There's a social expectation within this transaction that we have going on here. So while I might not use those words in the gentle parenting, I'm definitely letting you know that your decision making has consequences one way or another. And I'm not punishing you if I withhold a beneficial consequence. That is a result of the decision that you made. And I'm not rewarding you for making good decisions and there being a positive outcome. That is just cause and effect. Right? So, again, just recognizing, all right, what would have caused you to behave this way? Was there something you weren't thinking about? Were you not mindful of it? Well, you are a child. You're not mindful of anything until somebody tells you it warrants being mindful of it. They have no clue what risk and danger is until somebody tells them. Right? And that does not change. Right. Right. So what we also have to do, well, for me, what I've also learned to do is highlight the seriousness without inducing trauma, because I don't want you to be traumatized by the way I deal with you, more so than you realize the danger of the thing you were doing. And that is something that all of us had to do some recovering from, because plain talk bad manners, parents in the 70s, 80s and 90s may not have been exposed to the level of psychosocial information that we have now.
Right. The mix of answers which we have come across with this question especially is one which I think it will encompass all the listeners, because everybody would have their own parenting style, right? So I hope we are putting forward a good presentation to you, the listeners, right? Now, there's something, before we move on to another question, I just want to draw reference to something a brethren of mine told me when I mentioned that we were doing a show like this. And as he was talking about the consequence of actions, he was saying, no, you're not supposed to beat children. So he was asking the question of how do you discipline children? And his innovative way of disciplining his children, he has 4 of them, is he's take the chargers. He will leave them with all the devices, but take the chargers. So when that tablet dead, it dead.
And it's still spontaneous, it's torture.
And here now, he taking all the charges, huh? So if he punishing Kiegs and he have everybody else, he taking all 4 charges. So you can't say, hey, Shaun, lend me a charger now. All the chargers gone.
And so the rest of your siblings vex with you. You really that
exactly.
No, he introduced collective accountability for individual action.
And I found that was so funny. Yeah. But yet still it was very effective.
Yeah.
I remember back when, before HDMI cable and that kind of thing, with the Nintendo cord, it used to have a RF switch. Listen.
Yeah, RF switch, yeah.
Yeah. I remember coming home my evening and that was missing. The whole Nintendo there, adapter, games, Nintendo controls, TV, and no switch. You're pressing a power button and you're seeing the red light coming on and nothing.
Wow.
You're nothing.
I believe I get no controllers once. So I gotta put it on and see everything come up on the screen.
That's okay.
You have no controller to do anything with. I sit down and watch a menu screen.
I think it have that.
That is deep psychological hardship, boy.
I firmly believe that there has to be some psychological leverage if you want to get the point across.
No, but remember a long time when you had the PlayStation, it used to come with a memory card, the PS1. I come with no memory card.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Machiavellian.
Yep.
I start back at one, like Brian McKnight say. Come on, that was better.
All right.
That was better. That was better. What was an important lesson that you wish you learned before you became a father? And I know for Kiegs, this will be a real interesting one because as you said earlier, you have a stepdaughter. So Kiegs, let me kick it off with you this time.
So for me, I would say how much work it is, how difficult the job is, right? So in the case of Samara coming in to that position, even on an unofficial, I would have known her for years and years, as young as 5 months, right? But back then, I had no real concept of how important the role I was taking up was going to be, right? At that point in time, I didn't really have fatherhood on my mind at all. I meet somebody I like, yes, they have a child, I make sure the coast clear, nobody else on the scene, I do the responsible thing, I talk to people, I make sure everything, but I had not really thought to myself, well, you know what, at 21, I go and post up here, there's it here for me, right? There's the rest of my life. No, that wasn't the case. And even if that wasn't the thinking, I should have paid more attention to being there more, or even not being there, having a bigger influence, right? Because she, for herself, my wife here, she would have been young as well. So there were decisions she would be making that, while it may not have been terrible decisions, could have been better ones, right? But I probably didn't take the opportunity to correct her or found that it was my place to step in and have a say or anything like that. But I'm fortunate for the fact that I had that experience with Samara, so that by the time Elise was born, I understood completely how much was required from me, even from pregnancy. I was already on this kind of plane, well, you know what, whatever is required, I there fit, but I still look back and sometimes, sometimes when she hit my kind of look, or she kind of walk off a kind of way, I say, you know what, if I was paying attention in 2010, this wouldn't happen, like that kind of vibe. So I would say I really wish I understood how much work it is, how much you really need to be focused on it, because it does catch up to you. Like even with Elise, as young as she is, they still have pockets where I could think to myself, you know what, I should have done more here when she was 3. I should have done more here when she was 2, So yeah.
I love the answer. I love it. Franz, what about you?
I wish I had learned patience long before I became a father. My one major criticism or critique of myself is I took a long time to develop patience with my son. And a big part of that is what we talked about earlier, realizing that he's just a kid and he doesn't know certain protocols, certain sensibilities unless you teach them to him. But as an adult, you got used to the fact that everybody should know these kinds of things. So I was way too impatient with him growing up, and it's something I've worked really hard on to develop over the last 7 years.
Shaun.
First off with Kiegs and Franz, you hit me some reality checks there, boys. I like the answers. For me, it's balancing being the provider and maintaining a relationship. I wish I understood that from young. You know, sometimes as men, you know, we assume the role as you know, that provider for the household, and sometimes that's all we seen, being a provider for the household, and then we lose the relationship side. We lose that relationship with your child. You lose that relationship with sometimes with your spouse, even, because you're so you want, that's all you're seeing. You blind us all, and you're just saying, hey, I need to put a meal on the table. I need to have that account for education. You know, you focus on being the provider, and you focus on, you know, the destination and not the journey, and you miss a lot of important moments. You miss things. You miss a lot of important moments that your son or your daughter may need you for, because you just all about being the provider. And so for me, I think it's something you really have to learn to balance from early on, you know, having that dedicated time for your children and also for your marriage. Because, you know, sometimes being so focused on your child and being a parent, sometimes, you know, your marriage can also suffer because of that, you know, and so it's all about really striking that balance between being that provider and maintaining the key relationships within the household.
I'm actually lost for words with these answers, fellas.
There's an observation that I've made. Two things. Short stories. One, last year I was house sitting and dog sitting for somebody for 2 months, right? One thing I did not know prior to becoming a pet parent temporarily, bear with me, I don't lie. I don't knock about the way that I used to. But a brethren had come in from the Middle East. He said, we'll go and take a little vibes, no problem. And then when I realized I have to get home by a certain time to feed and walk this dog, it hit me. I said, but wait. My time is not mine anymore. And this was pet sitting, right? There is something that is dependent upon me to be present, right? That was the first one. And the second one, and I want to lean into the balance statement that was made. The thing that I've noticed, parents generally don't know until way later, and I'm hoping that with this conversation they could pick up on it in front and get ahead of the trauma that they're planting. If we as individuals have sides of ourselves that we like and we don't like, your kids are going to have sides that you like and you don't like. However, because they are not just yours, they are also going to have sides of the other parent that you like and don't like being expressed. So what you get now is a being that represents the sides of you and someone else that you like and don't like. It's not just your child. You're going to have to navigate the sides of this child that you don't like, that reflect you and your partner.
That real
is work, right? And this is why we just end up with plenty of the, you're just like your mother, you're just like your father, right? Yeah, but you're just like me. What about when the thing that you're doing that upsetting me is from me? What happens when I start to see myself in your behavior and I don't like it because I don't like it in me?
That's the other parent fault.
It's always your child when they're doing something that gets you.
Yes, so this is never that's a fault in me.
Franz, nail it. A lot of people rather, let me not use that statement, a lot of people don't change the behavior until they see it reflected in the child and realize it's them, you know.
You know, that is an eye-opening experience, you know. So I think Eli was 2 or 3, and he still calls me dude, right? It has been, he'll call me dad and daddy all every now and then, but it's been dude for years. And I was losing my patience with something he was doing, and he put his hand up and he's like, dude, relax. I was like, what? And so I had to bring myself down a little bit, and then he started talking back to me. Oh, that's where he got it from. Okay. But you know, when you see them do something exactly the way you would do it, it is the most powerful mirror you could ever get. And if you do not use that mirror to reflect on the behaviors that you are portraying for the child to mimic, then you missing the whole point.
Fellas, do you apologize to your children when you realize that you have made a mistake in probably a teachable moment, or just a mistake in general?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
If I'll jump in first, my temper is pretty well documented on my own socials. It's something I've been dealing with for a long time, trying to deal with anyway. Therapy, etc., etc. And if I know that I completely unreasonably lost my temper with my son, once I've calmed down and the house has calmed down, because when I lose my temper, the whole house goes up, I will sit him down very quietly and apologize and point out where I went wrong, why I went wrong, how I went wrong, and apologize so that he can see. And of course, it comes back to mirroring when you're supposed to apologize and what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. Just because I'm the parent doesn't make it right. And so, yes, I apologize to my son as often as necessary.
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off of what Franz saying there, really and truly, there isn't any manual to this thing, you know. There really isn't a manual there. We gain experiences as we go along. Nobody could have been prepared to be a parent during COVID. Nobody, right? There isn't a manual.
Yeah, no.
So, you know, we are emotional. We are emotional creatures, right? So, you're not too sure what kind of day you had. Different things might affect the way you react in a particular situation, and you've reacted, and you have to be that adult. I mean, there have been times where Trisha would have come and tell me, she's like, Shaun, I find you too harsh. And I would have to do some soul searching and be like, okay, cool. I went back to the girls and I was like, hey, okay, cool, guess what? I got this wrong. I was wrong. And, you know, we'd go through it together, you know, and I would say, I'll put my hand up. There's no manual to this, you know, and I won't always get it right. But what we need to get right is how we handle it, that relationship again. How we ensure that the relationship stays cohesive.
I again share the same sentiment. I do apologize. I can apologize, but in my own experience coming up as a child, and there were moments where, while growing as a child, I stopped myself in certain moments and said, you know what, I will not let this be me when I become a
that's it.
right? And this would be one of those moments. So I seldom have to apologize because I don't act rashly at all. Right? And most of the time, if not all of the time, I take a lot of time to consider what is the way forward here. I ask my wife, yo, here, this is what I'm feeling. You let me know how you feeling. Right? A lot of the time too, like I said with Samara, we have the conversations earlier on as to what is the expectation. So in the moment, I'm not there reacting. We have already documented what's the next step. So hey, I just following the playbook here right now. We're going about it. Right? So I try my best now. There are times when I don't get it right. Nobody is perfect. Right? But the same way we have to teach our children all of these things that we listed before. We have to teach them to apologize. The same too. Right? And being able to explain to them exactly what it is you're apologizing for. You know, maybe explaining why it is you didn't do the right thing at the point in time. Right? Explaining to them how sorry you are about it. It all informs them on how it is you should really apologize. Because if not, you're not with a set of children who just either saying sorry or it killing them inside to even say sorry. And I sure remember that from school when Miss bring you on the person who hit you in front of the class. and it's killing them to even mutter the word sorry, because they never see anybody really apologize, or they see it as a sign of weakness, or whatever reason, I have a hard time with it. Right? But I try my best to, in every situation, explore all the options so that I don't go wrong. But yeah, for sure, just like Shaun and Franz said, you have to be willing to apologize, because if not, the same way you see yourself in them, you will see that in them eventually. Yeah.
Fellas, I want to say thank you very much. Firstly, and again, for accepting the invitation for coming on the show tonight. Secondly, for being so transparent with not just us who in here, not just us who in the living room, but for those who in their living rooms listening to us, for those who in their cars, wherever they may be that are listening to this program. Because it's a sign of strength to be able to have a conversation like this, especially as men. Nobody taught us, as Shaun said, how to be a parent. Well, nobody taught you all, I should say, how to be a parent. But through the tribulations and the trials of people that you would look up to, people that you may not even look up to, or people that just are around, you are learning and you are doing a great job. Right? Now, we are getting perilously close to the hour of 7 p.m. here in Trinidad and Tobago. Closing remarks, real quick, fellas.
A new teacher is not as good a teacher as a veteran teacher. Who teaches a teacher to be a better teacher, if not the students? You become a better teacher the more students you're exposed to, because you are sharpened by what you are sharpening. Now, as a parent, you are taught to be a better parent, not by other parents, but by the lessons that your children teach you, if you're willing to learn them. So I just want to say to parents on the whole, particularly to fathers, while you might be the authority and it might be your roof, and you might be the one going out there and making the money, be subject to learning. The only way you will become a better parent is if you also learn the lessons that your kids are capable of teaching you, of what they are sent here to teach you.
Exactly, not make more children.
Oh, go!
That's what I was getting to this start. I get frightened. I'm saying, God.
Yeah, I just had to make sure and squeeze that in.
So, this is Ricardo Mitchell, the social stage and the global stage. Thanking you guys for joining us in the living room. Remember, guys, the hourglass is opaque. We don't know how much time remains, so whatever you're doing, be good and stay safe. Fellas, thanks. And Aaron, who you have next?
Kiegs.
Yeah.
We'll come back to France.
I would say to the fathers, keep your head up. Keep your head up. It is a tough job. Sometimes it feels like a thankless job, right? It's a lot of weight on shoulders, I know. And as much as sometimes you don't feel like if you could, or it is your role to lean on your wife or your girlfriend or whoever it is, might be a support system. Totally. Make use of that relationship as much as possible. Talk. Let them know. If it's just to say to her, wait, this father thing hard, boy. Let her know that is not a walk in the park for you. Right? So at least you might get a pat on the back that you would not have gotten before, but makes a difference to you. And if you could, explain to her that bear is more than just a bear a lot of the time. Right? I'm a big supporter of that bear. So that's what I'm telling him at them. Acknowledge that it is a tough job. Seek the assistance where you could, within the home, outside the home, right? And lean on the people who you can depend on.
Shaun.
Yeah. I mean, similar to everyone's saying there. I would like to say, if we pay attention to life teaches us a lot. We can learn a lot from life itself. So I would just say, pay attention to life and be willing to learn. Always be that student. Always be willing to be a student of life. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Happy Father's Day, world.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
Yeah. Franz.
Closing remarks. And this is as much a note to self as it is to anyone who might be listening. Gentlemen, practice patience. Patience with your kids as well as patience with yourself. It's been discussed tonight that there's no manual for fatherhood. We all do the best that we can, but in doing that, we're all going to make mistakes. But as long as you admit your mistakes and you learn from those mistakes and you do better when you know better, then you're well ahead of the curve. Fatherhood is a long, trying, but rewarding road. Peace be the journey.
So fellas, again, thank you to the fathers out there around the world. As Keek said, keep your head up. I live by a mantra that the day you stop learning is the day that you start to die. Learn something new, not just about your children, but also about the journey that you and your children are fostering together. Right? And recently I've always been saying, have fun, enjoy the journey. Enjoy it. I always tell you that love is the currency. Spend some today. Let somebody know that you love them. And I remind you that culture is my code. Up next is Mr. Desmond with the big band. Friday night, I'm back on. Saturday afternoon, I'm back on. Keep it locked to the True Nation station. Mr. Desmond is up next. We are out.